Hey everyone! I'm Albert Boris. Super Mario 3D World. Without a doubt, this has definitely got to be one of the most timeless and classic Mario adventures to come out in recent years. Wait, it's over 10 years old?! But yeah, it's definitely easy to see the mark this game has left on the Mario franchise. After all, why else do you think Super Nintendo World was modeled after its aesthetics? This game may not have been all that well loved when it first came out, mostly because people wanted a more open world sandbox game, but now that we've had Odyssey and Bowser's Fury come out in the meantime, it seems people are finally looking at it as its own thing. And while, at least in my opinion, it's definitely one of the most approachable and yet creative Mario titles out there. From its seamless combination of 2D and 3D elements, crazily addictive multiplayer, as well as the super unique level themes. What's not so great though are the worlds, ironically enough. Not because they have bad levels, they're exactly the opposite of that, but because of their structures. Because even though they still have classic themes like grasslands, deserts and beach and all that, the levels rarely ever follow through with said theme, aside from the very first stage. And as such, the worlds feel more like random level collections with no semblance of continuity. Why is there some dark poisonous jungle high up in the clouds? Okay, it's not that bad. Some areas have more organic progression than others, but it's still disappointingly handled. I only know where each exact level is because of how many times I've played this game. Fortunately though, that also makes this video possible. And so I thought, why don't I rank every Super Mario 3D World. At first, I was thinking maybe I should just rank the levels themselves, since that's where the game truly does shine, but I figured that would be quite a long ranking, and in the meantime, this will be sufficient enough, while we're waiting for the next 3D Mario. As personally, I've always been pretty fascinated with worlds themselves too, and see how they compare against each other. Although before we get properly started, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to this channel and enjoy my videos. It would really help me out and incentive me to make more videos more often. So with all of that being said, I say, let's get started. Alright, so in last place, there was no doubt which world was gonna take the bottom spot for me. At number 12, we have World Mushroom. So, remember what I said about this game having such distinctive and unique levels? Yeah, well, World Mushroom says f you. It's one of the game's 4 bonus areas that you unlock after beating the final boss, and while it is kinda special, it is so in all the wrong ways. Because every level is just a harder version of a previous stage, with only some minuscule differences. That's it. Every single one of them. But, okay, let's get one thing out of the way first. Are these bad levels? Well, no, not exactly. The levels they were based on were, for the most part, already fairly decent stages. Especially the likes of Hands-on Hall and the Blue Bully Belt. So it's kinda fun to play them again. And on another note, some of the remixed stages do come up with fairly cool changes. Like Real Rolling Hills is now nighttime and speedrun based, and the Deep Jungle Drift combines its gimmick with that haunted flashlight stage. So like, they definitely tried at least. But when every stage is still reused from an earlier point of the game, there's just not much exciting to playing through them. The few changes the levels do get usually aren't enough to justify their existences, and in the end, it just comes across more like a lazy and repetitive attempt to give us more content. Even worse, they couldn't even be bothered to give this world a fair structure, because after 6 levels, it just ends just like that, and you move on to the next area. Could you get any more underwhelming? If anything, these bonus levels should have just been extra missions for the levels they were based on, similar to how Prankster Comets worked in the Galaxy games. It's easily the worst world, and I will not be convinced otherwise. Easy D tier. And right after, at number 11, we have World Flower, and oh would you look at that, it's got the exact same issue as the last one, in that it's just recycled levels. In fact, in some ways, it's actually even worse, because at least World Mushroom had somewhat intriguing changes made to its levels, for the most part. In World Flower though, yeah, half the level is gone! I don't know why, but for some reason, a large chunk of this world's level selection shamelessly just takes out huge sections of what was part of the original levels. So if you were trying to not make them feel underwhelming, good job. And sometimes I don't even know what has changed, besides the time of day. However, as I said with the last world, most of these levels were already good in their original incarnations. And while some of them don't hold up as well, I still, on average, like the stages more in World Flower. Particularly the last 4 stages, which actually do a fairly good job of building up to the true endgame, with their somewhat epic atmospheres. And actually, unlike World Mushroom, there is one unique level here, Boss Blitz. it's just refighting all the bosses again, but hey, I like the bosses in this game. And it does at least give this world a proper closure, being the last level here. So yeah, at least this area has a good structure. Still pretty boring overall though. Also, this has no effect on the quality, but why is World Mushroom the one with the green flooring and World Flower red, even though realistically it should be the opposite? Whatever. It's another D-tier world overall, and not one I'd want to go back to. Man, this game was rough when it came to bonus worlds, because we're still not out of them. This time, with World Crown opening up the top 10. Now, this one doesn't have any reused levels, thank god. Instead, it's all the way down here on the list, because it's just got one level. Technically free, but the other two aren't true levels. As one of them is Captain Toad's Fairy Finale, which by all means is actually fairly easy with patience, and the other is the Mystery House Marathon, which sees you going through all previous Mystery House stages in one go. Okay, technically this level is recycled, but I think it's fine here, because even though the rooms are easy on their own, together it actually becomes somewhat stressful when you only have a one try. However, the main star of the show is obviously Champions Road, the final level of the game, and this stage, it's f***ing crazy, man. Obviously this isn't a level ranking video, so I'm not gonna delve too deeply into it, but it gives you no time to breathe. Even the first area is fast-paced and tricky, and it only gets more and more wild as it goes on. And coupled in with a majestic Gusty Garden remix and a beautiful jewel block aesthetic, and it's easily one of the most iconic Mario levels of all time. In fact, it's the only reason this world is not last place, just because of how well designed it is. Although personally, I'd rather just make this world an extension of World Star, and then delete the other bonus worlds, but hey, I like World Crown enough, so C tier. World 1 is the lowest ranked of the game's main worlds, but I'm sure that was to no surprise. Obviously, being way easier and more laid back than what comes after means it doesn't quite get to hold as much of a candle as some of the more creative worlds, but that's not a bad thing. And in fact, despite this, I'd argue that World 1 is still really good in this game. In fact, it's one of the best first worlds in any Mario game, surpassed only by Galaxy 2's and Wonders. All of the levels do a generally good job of drawing you into the game and its mechanics, whether it's the open and power-up packed Super Bell Hill, or 1-2 with its rideable Koopa shells, or even the first ever Plessy stage. There's even a carnival stage near the end with flip switches you have to turn on, which is a nice contrast that feels earned, because unlike most other worlds in the game, this one manages to keep a consistent theme throughout all the levels up until this point, something which deserves some bonus points as well, even if it's just grasslands. I still can't give this world any higher spot. 1-3 is a pretty standard athletic level, and despite how hilarious Bowser in a car is, the whole boss dungeon and fight itself is slow and boring to slug through. Still, World 1 is pretty good, and I'd give it a B tier. World 2 unfortunately starts the trend of having worlds where the levels don't overlap in theme, but you know what, I'm not gonna care too much about this, as long as the levels are more good than bad. And in this case, I'm pretty sure most people are happy about the lack of desert levels here, seeing as how hated that theme is. Unfairly, that is. Actually, the one level that is desert themed here is actually my favorite one, Conch-Dor Canyon. I like the vibrant ruins aesthetic, it's satisfying to claw swipe the condors, and there's plenty of fun platforming secrets to be found. And the rest of this world is pretty solid too. Puff Prod Peaks makes incredibly creative use of the Switch's gyro controls by having you tap and activate platforms to walk on, in addition to having a unique mattress aesthetic. And Shadowplay Alley has some nice perspective changes, and Double Cherry Pass is a basic but good introduction to the Double Cherry. Of course, like with World 1 though, there's also a few stages I don't like Real Rolling Hills is just way too basic and should have just been in World 1 instead. And Boom Boom's Bullet Brigade is such a slow and boring auto-scroller. Hurry up! And Boom Boom himself sucks, like, let's be real. Still, the majority of World 2's levels are incredibly solid, making for a fairly interesting B-tier world. World 5 is a world that doesn't have too many standout levels, but most of them, if not all, are still generally fun experiences. The most interesting part is the theme, because even though it's meant to be a beach, it's also got a distinct purple hue to it, making for a really beautiful set piece. Plus, there's actually quite a lot of hidden warp pipes here. And the levels, they're really good for the most part. Sunshine Seaside and Sprawling Savannah are definitely the highlights of it, with their more open world layouts, as well as Tricky Trapeze Theater, which sees you becoming a circus acrobat. Beyond that, there's also Bob-Ombs Below, which is just some random underground stage, and Cakewalk Flip, which is a gimmick we've already seen be done to death in this series, and also Backstreet Bustle, our first of many 100-second micro stages. Normally, I don't really like these too much since they're usually too short to leave much of a mark, but this one I like enough for its use of the double chair to reach the green stars. And Searchlight Sneak in particular is one of the most intense levels in the game, with all the bullet builds ready to just demolish you. And while King of Funk is stupidly easy, you gotta admit how creative of a concept this boss character is. So yeah, overall, World 5 is really good. It's more innovative than the last two worlds, but not as consistently great as what's coming next. World 4. This one falls perfectly into the definition of short but sweet. On one hand, it's definitely one of the most consistently enjoyable worlds, with the only somewhat subpar level being Bouncing Byway. And even then, it's not bad. A bit generic, sure, but it's still a lot of fun to just bounce around here. Otherwise, you've got Ant Trooper Hill, which makes fun use of the ant trampolines, Piranha Creeper Cove, with it satisfying to kill piranha creepers, as well as Spike's Lost City, which is one of the best temple atmospheres in the game. The strong suit of World 4 is definitely carried by Beep Block Skyway though. Yeah sure, it's another gimmick reused from Galaxy 2, like in Cakewalk Flip, but the addition of the double cherry, as well as the way crazier level design and theme, adds a whole different perspective to it. And the Lava Rock Lair is a solid boss dungeon too, with plenty of fun puzzles and a unique boss fight. It's just... why is this world so small? Like, it makes sense for Worlds 1 and 2 to have 5 levels each, but after World 3 upped the game with 7 regular levels, why did World 4 go back to the bare minimum? So yeah, still pretty good, but not much more than that. World 6, opening up the top 5, is where we're gonna start to see generally more quality and quantity, even if there's still a few bummers to be found. Normally, I'm not too big on cloud worlds in Mar games because the cloud theme itself tends to be really basic a lot of the time. But you know, 3D World doesn't even follow through on its world theme, so for once that's actually a good thing. The only level that's really cloud themed here is the first one, Clarepipe Cruise, and even then, it's a respectable enough stage that makes use of the clear pipes to their fullest. Beyond that, you've got Spooky Seaside Wreck, which brings back my beloved bully enemies, Hands-on Hall, an entire level set within a dojo, Deep Jungle Drift, one of the best auto-scrollers because, even though you're mostly following this slow raft, you do have the option to try and speed through it, by climbing up on platforms above. And the other auto-scroller in this world, Fuzzy Mine Time, is pretty kick-ass too, as the atmosphere is really intense with all the fuzzies coming for you. So yeah, overall, World 6 is just a generally really consistent world, except for the boss level. Why is this another Boom Boom Brigade? You know, up until this point, this game really impressed me with the bosses, by having each world always introduced a brand new boss character. And then so close to the endgame, we're back to Boom Boom. Couldn't we have like, oh, I don't know, Prince Bully Palace or something, considering the bully enemies were even introduced in this world? Heck, why is Prince Bully nothing more than an enemy blockade character? It's not a major deal breaker, even though the bullies are like some of my favorite Mario enemies ever, and at least it sorta makes up for boss Motley Blob later on, but it does feel disappointing nevertheless. And the other two levels I didn't mention yet, the Bullet Bill Base and Taifu Flurries, while good, aren't anything mind-blowing. Despite this, World 6 is still generally great in my opinion, and I have no qualms about giving it an A tier. In fourth place, we have my favorite of the game's numerical worlds, World 3. And this, admittedly, came as a bit of a surprise to me, because as it turns out, it's also got not one, but two of my most hated levels in the game. Pretty Plaza Panic and Pipeline Lagoon. Pretty Plaza Panic is another one of those 100-second levels and has virtually no substance to it, and Pipeline Lagoon is a water level. Yay. Everything else is actually shockingly great though, especially for being early game. I mean, Snowball Park is a bit frustrating with its ice physics, but it's still a beautiful winter wonderland with skating Goombas. What else do we got? An auto-scroller that's actually satisfying and makes fun use of the cat suit, a ghost house with really cool secrets, and also this gorgeous autumn mountain with switchboards? All of these are incredibly solid levels, and I didn't even mention Mount Mustache, the Mario Kart level, which doesn't even need an introduction. I'm actually surprised that it's played so early in the game, and that it's not in one of the bonus worlds, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. And despite how much I complained about Boom Boom's tank level, I think Pom Pom's Express stage, despite also being an auto-scroller, is much more exciting and feels faster. Probably because I love trains. But still, it's a far nicer boss level. And Histocrat is only my favorite boss fight in the game for its use of the catsuit, so yeah, World 3 is definitely a great time, even with its shockingly low lows, so I'm putting it in A tier. World Bowser is the last of the game's main story worlds, and oh my is it definitely one of the coolest looking Bowser worlds in the series. Because instead of a typical lava or castle kind of area, this one's themed around an evil amusement park, high up in the sky, filled with tall buildings. And even though you don't really get any levels based on theme park rides, besides like the very last one, it still makes for a really unique vibe, because this is also one of the more thematically consistent worlds in the game. Thank God. Already, Spiky Spike Bridge is an absolute banger first impression, with its difficult gimmick and epic rainstorm visuals. And same can be said for Footlight Lane, with its invisible paths only lighting up under pressure. Otherwise, World Bowser once again takes a lot of liberties when it comes to other levels' themes, but he still managed to be really creative, whether it's a whole stage based around cookies and sweets, the hardest Plessy stage, or this creepy 2D dungeon with moving water. It also bears mentioning that World Bowser sees us refighting numerous of the game's previous bosses to really get us in the mood of approaching the endgame, and I like that. Histocrat, Boss Blob, and even Pom Pom return, which yes, that means we even get another amazing train level, and it's even better and more difficult than the previous one. Oh yeah, and also the final boss against Meowser is just kingly. It's not so much fighting as much as you're just trying to get to the top while avoiding his wrath, but it's still a masterfully crafted level. The reason World Bowser isn't any higher though comes down to two levels. First is Grumblump Inferno, the last regular stage. It's not exactly bad, but it's just so slow paced, with this moving cube you have to stay on. So if you lose at any point, you have to slug through even more. And the other stage is A Beam in the Dark, a ghost level, which has the exact same issue. Still, besides that, World Bowser is still really great though, hence its spot in the top 3. Surprisingly, despite praising World Bowser for its unique aesthetic, I actually thought World Castle, the game's penultimate main world, was marginally better. Partly because, unlike World Bowser, this one manages to not only stay more consistent in theme, but despite that, it also still manages to make each level creative and distinct from one another. Fort Fire Bros, the first level, is probably the most basic one, and even then, it greatly stands out thanks to its blue lava aesthetic. And other than that, you've got this cool Zelda-styled dungeon stage, Red Hot Run, the best 100-second level thanks to its high-speed gameplay and shortcut potential, Boiling Blue Bully Belt with its Return of the Bullies, and Blue Lava, and Simmering Lava Lake with its constantly changing lava tides. Although my favorite level here, which also is my favorite stage overall from this game, would have to be Trick Trap Tower. Not only do I love the concept of climbing up dangerous towers, but the ending section is especially nerve-wracking, where you have to first get all these warp block keys and then get down as fast as you can before the poisonous fog kills you. Now, like with the previous few worlds though, there are still two levels I don't like though. The boss level is once again generic and kinda boring, as it's another Bowser in a car fight. And Rammerhead Reef might just be the worst stage in the entire game, because not enough that it's another underwater level, but it's just so long, in addition to being really annoying with all these Rammerheads blocking the path. Still, everything else I mentioned still holds up, which is why I find slightly more enjoyment in it than in World Bowser. It's just that there's another world on the list that has even less problems. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is World Star, the only good bonus world in the game. Man, this is ironic considering how low the other ones were. But yeah, this is easily one of the most creative selection of stages in the whole game, with every single one of them being not just good, but great in fact. Or well, okay, if there is a level I had to complain about, it would maybe be Super Blockland, mostly for the generic theme. I mean, wow, it's just big blocks, but even then, I can't deny that it's still pretty unique in the context of this game. And actually, all of the levels here are really unique, fitting for a special world. You've got Rolling Ride Run, a toy block castle with rolling cylinders and double cherries, the Great Goal Pole, which sees you actually chasing a goal pole, Super Galaxy, which takes the flip swap gimmick but actually makes it a bit distinct, Gargantuan Grotto, which lets you demolish anything in your path, and the list just goes on and on. Seriously, at this point, if I was talking about any other world, I'd already be done narrating the levels I liked. There's also an auto-scroller that's actually really f***ing beautiful, with Gusty Garden playing in the background, this creepy open world snow level with a bunch of doors, and heck, the first level is probably one of the hardest in the game, for how you need to use these trapezes to land on teensy tiny narrow rolling platforms. And of course, there's also the absolutely infamous Cosmic Canyon Cluster. This is one of the most hated levels from the game, but I absolutely love it for how brutally difficult it is. Most of the level is navigated on this switchboard, where you have to use a cannon box to not only defeat enemies, but also activate faraway switches to build more road. And it can actually get surprisingly nerve-wracking when you have to be really precise with aiming. I love the challenge, and ominous space background and intense soundtrack only further helps it stand out. Without a doubt, Worldstar is easily my favorite one in this game, and it will probably always be. And so there you have it, my full list of all the Super Mario 3D World worlds ranked. This was admittedly a slightly hard list to come up with. I mean, geez, when almost every world has zero consistency between levels played, most of them just kinda end up blending together. As I said already, I only know where each exact stage is because of how much I've wasted time on this game. But hopefully it was still a really fun video for y'all to watch. But what is your ranking of the worlds in this game? Did you agree with me or not? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. And if you enjoyed this ranking, make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel as I make even more videos on the Mario franchise. Follow me on Discord, Twitter and Patreon as well for more updates, and I'll see you all soon. Until next time.